Hello everyone and welcome back to Beatly Tone's Beatles channel. Lovely to have you here. Thanks for joining me for this video and I hope you're all doing well. Now from time to time on this channel I like to do a story video. That's a story about being a Beatles fan. So when we're not talking about the music, the albums, the songs, the rankings, new releases, all that sort of caper, just something that's happened during my time as being a Beatles fan, and that's what I'm going to do today. It's going to be a fairly short video, but I'm going to tell you about the most bizarre Beatles tourist attraction I've ever come across in my life, and I think it's quite an interesting one, and I'm not sure how well known this is, and I certainly didn't know about it. I just stumbled across it when I was on holiday a couple of years ago, so I'm going to tell you about it. So, as we know, the Beatles' faces, they're just everywhere. Squillions and squillions of pictures of the Beatles' faces. They're on album covers, on countless magazines, in countless books, loads of memorabilia, pencil cases, trays, record players, plates, pencils, everything. Everything you can think of has got the Beatles' faces on it. But how many things have got the Beatles' butts on it? Yeah, they're butts. They're butts. They're bums. They're bottoms. They're arses. How many? Just one, I reckon, and I'm going to tell you about it. So the story takes place in the summer of 2020, the back end of the summer of 2020. We'd just come out of our first lockdown and the pubs and the restaurants and the shops were all starting to open up. And we were encouraged as a nation to go on holiday to help build up the British tourist industry that had lost so much money during lockdown, and Boris Johnson was oh so pleased with himself for coming up with the term staycation, which basically meant you could go on holiday but you weren't allowed to fly anywhere, you just had to go on holiday somewhere in the UK. So me and Mrs. Beatly Tone, we decided to go down to Plymouth in Devon. We've never been to Plymouth before, and Devon is a very nice place, very nice county in the southwest of England. It's on the coast and it's a sort of a city port place. Got loads of history. It's the place where the Pilgrim Fathers set off in 1620 to discover the New World, which some of you might call America these days. And so it's got lots of history, and it's the home of the cream tea and lots of nice countryside and lots of nice coastline. So that's where we thought we'd spend a couple of days that summer. So what's all this got to do with the Beatles, I hear you ask?
What's all this got to do with the Beatles?
Well, I'll tell you. So on the 12th of September 1967, the Beatles were driving around the West Country in their big yellow psychedelic magical mystery tour bus, and they were heading for Widdicombe Fair in Dartmoor Park. Now they went across a bridge and it became impassable, so they couldn't get the coach across this bridge, so they had to reverse a whole for miles back and caused absolute traffic mayhem, so that trip was abandoned and they went on to Plymouth. Now if you've got the Magical Mystery Tour DVD box set thing, that thing came out in 2012, there's a book that comes with it, which isn't the same as the book that comes with the album, but in this book there's a picture, and this picture here is taken at Plymouth, and this is a place called the Plymouth Hoe. Yes, it really is called that. And it was taken by a fella called David Redfern, who was kind of commissioned by the Beatles to take pictures along the way on the Magical Mystery Tour. And there's another picture here, this one here, which is taken in the same place, and this bit here tells you all about that little aborted trip. So the Beatles end up in Plymouth. They're down on the Plymouth Hoe. They have a few photos taken. And me and Mrs. Beatly Tone, we're walking around Plymouth on our first day there, and we come across this art sculpture made in copper, and we're thinking, what is this? And right in front of it, there's a big board that tells us exactly what it is. I'll show you the information board in a second, because the photo that I took of that is not that great for seeing the actual picture that they used for the sculpture, because the pictures that were in this book that I just showed you are not the actual photo that they modelled the sculpture on. So the photo that they modelled the sculpture on was this one. And here's the board, and I'll read it out because you probably won't be able to see it in the video. So it says, this artwork marks the spot where John, Paul, George and Ringo posed for a picture that has gone on to become one of the most famous images of one of the world's most influential bands. I would argue that it's not one of the most famous images of the band. Taken on Tuesday the 12th of September 1967 by music photographer David Redfern, it shows the Fab Four with the all-white Smeaton's Tower in the background. The Smeaton's Tower is an ex-lighthouse. They were in the city to pose for photographers while making the Magical Mystery Tour film. So the sculpture was made in 2015 by a company called Thrussell and Thrussell, and it cost £21,634.55 to make. Now you might be asking, how did they know how big to make the Beatles bottoms? And so I'll tell you. So what they did was they got a Beatles tribute band called the Fab Beatles to pose in the exact positions that John, Paul, George and Ringo were back in 1967, and then they made the sculpture based on the impressions that the four of those in the band made. So as you can see from the picture, John and Paul get hands and legs and bottoms, but George and Ringo only get bottoms. So that is, I believe, to be the most bizarre Beatles tourist attraction in the world. So we'll go back to the information board, and I'll just read you the bit that it says at the bottom. At the bottom. Oh, pun very much intended. Fans can recreate this image by sitting on the copper bottom moulds made by Thrussell and Thrussell. The artists were assisted by a tribute band, the Fab Beatles, whose bottoms were used to create the moulds. Recreate the picture and share on Twitter using the hashtag BeatleBums. And I also really like the website that they've got at the bottom, because it's www.plymouth.gov.uk/artho. So although I didn't actually sit on the bottom, because that would have been a bit sad, seeing as there was only one of me and one of Mrs. Beatly Tone, and someone had to take the photo. Here is a picture of me standing very awkwardly alongside it, and I apologise in advance now for my knees. So my question for you down in the comments is, have any of you been to Plymouth to see the Beatles bottoms? Has anyone on here seen it? I'd like to hear from you down in the comments if you have. An alternative question would be, has anyone come across anything more bizarre as a tourist attraction? And I'm not talking about Beatles memorabilia, because we know there's plenty of wacky stuff out there, but what I'm talking about is an actual structure or tourist attraction for the Beatles that's more bizarre than these copper bottoms. If you have, tell me about it down in the comments. That's all from me now. The next video is going to drop in a couple of days, hopefully by the end of the week, and I'm going to be paying homage to 40 years of the compact disc. So please join me for that video. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.